City of Stevens Point Board of Public Works meeting, recorded Monday, May 11, 2020.
I have 6:19. We will call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. I do not see Trish on the meeting, so I will call the roll.
Trish is here. She's with me.
Oh, that doesn't look like 6 feet. All right.
There.
That's close enough. That's better. So Trish, I'm going to ask you to call the roll, please.
Okay, Mayor Wiesa.
Here.
Slawinski.
Here.
Kneebone. Is Kneebone here?
She's there.
Here.
There you go. Just having a little problem with the mutes.
Orlatic.
Here.
Sean Morrow.
He's there.
Okay, Jennings.
Here.
And Zarazua.
Here.
Everybody's here.
Perfect. And Carrie is coming in. Okay. So again, I don't think we have anybody new, but please keep your phones on mute unless you're speaking. Committee members, when we call for a vote, take yourself off of mute, vote, and then put yourself back on mute, please. If you have a comment or question, raise your hand physically, raise your hand virtually. The chat room is open. Committee members, of course, I'll try and keep an eye on everybody here. So first item on the agenda is the director's report, which includes updates on the TAP grant, Transportation Alternative Program grant, Business 51 reconstruction project, the 2020 Streets Improvement Project, and the 2020 Road Resurfacing Project. Director Badoon, we are swinging into summer, which is construction season here in the city. Please give us an update on those projects and then talk a little bit about how we are modifying work duties as we go into moving forward with this COVID-19 thing.
Sure. So the first thing, I guess I'll start with the list there, TAP grant. We just received here in the last month here all of our DOT approvals. So we are actually out advertised at the moment with a bid opening of June 2nd. So it took a little bit of time to get through all the process with the traffic study and all that they asked for, but we were out there, so we're looking good to get things put down this summer as scheduled. Related to Business 51, otherwise I would have asked AECom, they'd be doing another update now and talking about public involvement and such, but with COVID-19, we've been unable to do the stakeholder group meetings and the public involvement meetings. So we're looking at other options that we may possibly be able to utilize there, some virtual meetings, but not if this continues on much longer. But in the interim, it has allowed them to concentrate more on some of the other reporting. So I did include in the director's report a list of some of the things that they've submitted to this office that have otherwise reviewed or are in the process of reviewing, including a purpose and need report, safety and operation report, the road diet evaluation, and the design criteria memo that were at different stages of it that we're using it. One of the nice things that may come out of this process is, separating the two out, although they were going to run concurrently, is the fact that we'll have some of these reports as we begin some of the public involvement. Not that they're otherwise necessary, but it may, assist with some of the individuals may be interested in those as we move forward. So that's where that one sits there. It hasn't kind of died off, although you haven't heard of it. It's definitely moving forward, just different aspects of it. The next on the list that I had was the 2020 Street Improvement Project. Pretty much just wanted to identify to anyone listening and watching is that the road closure will start later this week. They're scheduled to remove pavements on Thursday. So as of Thursday, Fremont Street at Main College will be closed off. So I guess you just need to pick an alternative route if you're headed that way. And if you live in that area, this is when it all begins. Welcome to summer. And the last one actually ties into the first action item is the 2020 Road Resurfacing Project. This is the project out on the east side there. This is by Bannock School. This would include actually Maple Bluff over by Target, a little bit of Sandy Lane, Walter Street, Wildwood. This project was just gone out for bid. Without the COVID thing, we're now becoming experts in the online bidding process, so no delays in getting this one out and the bids open. there. So just wanted to otherwise bring that to attention there. And I'll mention a little bit as we move forward here, before we move forward, is that this is another project we got really good prices from Haast Brothers, who, if the name sounds familiar, last month we awarded the contract for the 2020 street improvement project to Haast. This project actually works very well with their scheduling. Much of this is just road surface type work. There's a little bit of utilities. So they're able to just mobilize basically their entire army of people here for all elements of work. And they'll probably spend much of the summer here doing it. So because they're already here and they're going to be bringing people, they could reduce overall mobilization costs and such. So we actually got a very good price from them. And we hopefully will talk a little bit more about that when we get to the discussion item. But yeah, that project otherwise should work out very well. We're very pleased to see what we received there. And they're eager to get started on that. Then the last thing is just what we're doing here in Public Works. Just starting this week, we increased our staffing levels. We had been operating on a 3-week rotation. People seems that the threat, maybe while it still exists, isn't as much of an issue or concern as it was before. So we've increased our daily staffing levels, and we're working diligently on trying to get caught up, especially on some of our street maintenance activities. So while we're running basically 1 shift a day through most of our elements that we have, we do have 2 shifts for our road maintenance crews. So if this meeting doesn't go too long, you might even run into them, depending upon where you're going out yet this evening, taking care of crack fill and stuff like that, just trying to get caught up on those things that we weren't able to do as much of before. So, and we'll continue to do that for a while. So yeah, just if you see people out and about early and late, it's probably not necessarily that there's anything wrong. We're just trying to get caught up, and we've divided up our labor forces to try to get as much done as we can.
Perfect. Thank you, Director. And thank the crews for adjusting their work schedules. So they're going to start earlier in the morning, and then the second shift is going to be working later into the late afternoon, early evening to try and get caught up on this stuff. Alder Jennings had a question for you regarding TAP grant. Alder Jennings?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Director Badun, for bringing the TAP grant to this to the finish line. I appreciate that. Just a couple of questions or comments. Given that this is going out in June, my understanding is there are only a few epoxy painters. Do you foresee any problems with this timing related to those who paint epoxy? And then I have a follow-up comment to that.
To our surprise, actually, it seems that many of these contractors are busier than we thought they would be. But talking through SEH, they were actually able to get hold of a couple that felt that it wouldn't be that much of of an issue to get out there, because really they only need to be started. The details of the TAP grant say they need to commence work by the end of August, and we'll allow them into. Although that would be an ideal time necessary to finish about the time school starts, but allowing them to extend that completion beyond their, those that they spoke to said they didn't see it was an issue to get it finished this summer.
Okay, great. And if you don't mind, I saw a misleading headline a little while ago, or maybe a month or 2 ago. I'm wondering if you could really quickly explain the reason we bid epoxy for this is the durability of it. And there are not that many contractors that do epoxy, and latex can be painted over epoxy, but your truck could not do this to have any kind of durability. So could you just clarify for the public sort of why these decisions were made and why ultimately this is cost savings?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right in what we have. The equipment that we have only does the latex paint. Latex will last, depending upon how much it's driven over, wear and tear, 1 to 3 years. So even if you identify that, crosswalks are a prime example of that. You'll often see that where the tire, the treads are, it wears away very quickly. You're likely to get, a year is about the longest life you'll get. Then outside that, you'll see that it'll last longer. The epoxy paint, will last anywhere from, typically 3 to 7 years, depending upon that wear life. So, the crosswalk example, again, what you might see with latex paint after a year, you probably start to see with maybe approximately 3 years with the epoxy paint. The epoxy, of course, is much more specialized. It's often, in two parts. That's why we don't have the equipment. It's more expensive. It takes more, technical understanding and knowledge and care to maintain the equipment that does the epoxy. But generally, just its durability and longevity for what it otherwise paints, to get down the cost of the material and of course the labor, time, and equipment to put it down, where you're not otherwise doing, other, activities, and it would otherwise need to be removed. The one drawback epoxy does have is if you have near-term and other improvements such as road surface improvements of, sealing, chip sealing, stuff like that, is the epoxy paint needs to be removed before you put it down, which then is an added cost there. So in fact, we've gone through all the areas we're doing here now to make sure, and worked with SEH as well as working through our contractor or contractors potential for our chip sealing, because some of those do overlap, is to make sure that work, the service work, is done before the epoxy is put down. But once it's put down and we don't have other work to it, it definitely lasts a longer time and is therefore more cost effective in the long run for us to use when we know we got the time, uninterrupted time to let it wear away.
Okay, any other questions for the director regarding his report? I don't see any. Nothing in the chat room. All right, so then we will move on to our action items. The first item is to award the 2020 road resurfacing project number 20-01 to Haast Sons Incorporated out of Thorpe, Wisconsin, in an amount not to exceed $1,347,389.38. Director, anything to add?
Again, we got real good prices here. Our estimate was about 1.3, so just under 1.2 for us was, we thought, very, very good. Although all the bid prices came in, I mean, generally.
Director, I'm seeing 1.34 million for the.
Yeah, well, that's with the
Right.
contingency as well. So yeah, but just the actual bid prices we put there. So we're looking very good. We think that Haast can do this. It'll work well with the other project they have in, and they're more than capable of completing the work. So we would be looking to award it to Haast for Haast Sons.
Great. Alderpersons, what are your wishes?
I do make a motion to award the 2020 road resurfacing project 20-01 to Haast and Sons out of Thorpe in the amount not to exceed $1,300,000 and 80 whatever.
That's all right. Alder, we've got the dollar amount to the agenda, so we're perfectly okay with that. Is there a seconded by Slowinski? Discussion on the motion. Just going through to make sure I don't see any hands raised. I see nothing in the chat room.
Actually, I
ahead,
have a quick question. Director Badoon, when would the Walter Street, when is that going to start again?
We don't have an actual start date. It'd probably be sometime, in June. Once we otherwise get here, if we get this otherwise approved tonight, we'll probably contact Haast to see about setting up a pre-construction conference, at which time they'll give us their schedule. But I would say early June likely, because they're ready to go and they're mobilizing on the other project, and I'm sure they just want to get people here and get started. So very soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. One more chance. I'm going to zip through here quick. I don't see anything. We are good. So the motion is to approve the 2020 road resurfacing project 20-01 to Haast Sons Incorporated out of Thorpe in an amount not to exceed $1,347,389.38. If all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, that motion is approved. And we'll move on to the second item, which is to consider amendments for Chapter 8, subsection 05, as it relates to parking. Predominantly a lot of cleaning up, but Director, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, that's pretty much what this is just over the past couple of months, a few things that we've cleaned up, including a few things that recently we made changes to. We found that we made some mistakes ourselves. We're not perfect. Just to try to others clean up some additional signs there that had no ordinances to support them. And of course, some areas where there were no signs, but there were ordinances. So just working with PD to try to clean up things there. And that's what we have in front of us here today.
Put myself on mute. Any questions for the director or a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Alder Devon here. I'll move to approve.
Okay, we're going to give the motion to Alder Jennings, the second to Alder Kneebone. If that's acceptable, just nod your head. Good. Thumbs up is good. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve this. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing no one opposed, the motion is approved and we are adjourned at 6:34.